Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Hammer Podcast. Today is February 12th, 2024, and I'm speaking with Benni and Stacy. Their mother, Gwendolyn Green, went to the Rebekah Home for Girls. What year was that, ladies?
1974.
1974. I was 2 years old. Wow.
Oh, right. He was 14.
14.
He was 14 years old.
Okay. So go ahead and start from the beginning. Tell me a little bit about your mother. And
Well, this experience happened, like I said, when she was 14 years old, but my mother just passed this Christmas Eve of 2023, and she lived a life full of circumstances that made her the complete survivor that she was. I want her to be known as the survivor and the heroine for the way that she lived, because at 14 years old to endure such an experience, it's actually captivating and astonishing and sad, because she sought this place out, Rebekah Home for Girls.
Oh, did she?
When she heard it on the radio.
Oh, okay.
She went to this place because they were doing advertisement on the radio for changing lives. And yeah, they changed her life, but it wasn't for the best. They did so many things to not only her, but a lot of victims. I don't know how many, but I do know that my mother was a part of the original whistleblowers for this place that was actually shut down. I don't know when they exactly shut down, but it was years after this experience. My mother was one of the girls that actually was able to not only save herself, but one friend she went back for, and then others she contacted their families by breaking into the homes
on her street in her neighborhood.
Yeah,
okay.
After she ran away.
Because back then, like you had to call collect if you had to call out of state. It wasn't just like dial a number.
Right.
So
right.
she broke into everyone in her neighborhood's house. Every girl that she could remember their name, she tried to contact each one of their parents to make sure that they knew what was going on there.
And when she did that, it was able to help everybody to be aware of the situation, because they actually stifled and handicapped everybody from communicating with their families. They intercepted all of the contacts that they had with their families, and they made all of the girls that were trying to reach out as liars. And when they did that, they did so much detriment, trauma to these girls, because they wanted to escape, but they couldn't. But my mother was one of the successful ones that was able to do that. And I'm so proud of her as a woman now, but as a young girl, 14 years old, to run across a field in her stockings and come back for one more friend that she promised she would not leave behind. That's amazing.
Yes, it is. I remember, because I was there in 81, I believe. And I know that the homes were closed, I believe, in the mid-'80s, and then it closed for good.
Early 90s, yeah.
Or late 90s. That's when...
Late 90s,
right,
okay.
That's when Faye Cameron was accused of abuse, and they banned her from ever teaching in Texas again. So I think she moved back to Georgia. But the Rebekah Home went to another state, and they changed their name. So,
right.
Yeah, they've been doing that.
They had tax availability to do such a thing, and they knew the law when it comes down to those types of things. But they were still evil. Even though they tried to promote themselves as non-evil, they were still downright practicing things that were just astonishing. And not only that, when I found my grandfather, her father of Gwen Green, found out about all of this, he tried to go in there and get his daughter, and they refused contact. And when they did that, my grandfather assaulted the people because he actually punched them in the face.
He punched a priest in the face, or a pastor in the face,
because they would not let him see my mother. They said that she was a liar.
Was it Wiley Cameron, or was it Lester Roloff himself?
Not Lester Roloff himself. It was his staff. Lester Roloff protected himself, of course.
Of course, yes. He had everybody do the dirty work for him.
Yes, they did, and they all believed in everything that he said. And they were actually, I want to say that they were pretty much taken over by his ways. For them to do such a thing and hide such a horrific situation, that is pure evil, in my opinion.
It's a cult. Is what it is.
Yeah, for real, it was a cult.
And especially the things that Gwen said that she had to endure while she was there. It was just like absolutely like, I mean, I could only imagine being 14 years old and like, it's kind of like you're going somewhere to escape, somewhere to make your life better. But at the same time, you have these people that are just like absolutely just horrible, unspeakable things to you.
My mother heard their broadcasts on the radio and thought that this would be a place that helped her get her life in order because she was 14. Her mother had just left. She wasn't aware of what she was going through in life. She wanted to have a better life, and she actually sought this place out for that. And when she got there, she became a victim and trapped into a situation that she did not want to endure.
Right. And the thing is, back in those days, they didn't have the internet where you could, do some research on these places to find out if they were, good or bad places to be.
Exactly. There was no way to find out about any of that. And when it got down to it, she did her best to change her life, but when she realized that this was not the place to do it, she got out of there. And they did not make that very easy for her. They actually told her and made her very aware that if she ever did tell, that horrible consequences were going to come about. And unfortunately, my mother, at 14 years old, took that to heart. And she was not able to express herself when she wanted to tell somebody something or explain something about herself. She always had a communication problem, and I think that was because of the original trauma that they induced on her.
Yeah, they'll tell you you're going to hell and all this other stuff. Yeah, they
or that everybody's going to pay for it. Your family's not going to believe you. Your family's not going to, whatever they told her. It actually is what she believed. And so she had a hard time all of her years of communicating after that.
Right. And the thing is, let's say telling that to a full-grown adult is different than telling it to a child.
Well, 14 years old who's still, developing. Correct. You're right.
Right.
And I believe I did a lot of generational trauma research. And when I found out about this, I was conceived the next year after all of this happened to her. And our bodies can remember trauma, even in the muscles. The muscles contain memory. So as her daughter, I've always battled with why she was the way she was. And when I did the research as an adult, it started to hit me. 2 + 2 = 4. My mother was not actually that way for no reason. There was a reason behind that.
Right.
At 14 years old, you're not mentally able to accept what's happening. So she didn't understand how to be the true mother at the young age as she was. And she was, pregnant with me at a very young age, but she loved me. She just didn't know how to mother me because she didn't understand it. She was in protective mode her entire life.
Yes.
Yeah, like survival mode.
Right, the fight or flight type of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. That's how she lived. And I now understand that. But as her child, I didn't understand it till I became an adult. And just a year ago, it's so ironic that we're doing this podcast about this because a year ago I contacted her. I said, Mom, tell me more about this place. And she did. She told me how they did her. And it's mind-blowing. A lot of people, actually, I've done my own research on YouTube, and I've missed a few comments myself, and the people that have responded, they actually called me the liar as well, saying that there's no way that this happened. Lester Roloff, which was the owner of the place, or the leader, however you want to call him.
The evangelist.
He was a beautiful man. He was this perfect person in a sense that they wanted to say. And I just thought to myself, you're a fool. You're only a fool for you to think that somebody can be on such a high pedestal and be so perfect. This person allowed his entire staff, even if he was not guilty by his own hands, his staff was. And so he was a leader of those people. So if you're the leader of those people, you're just as guilty to me as you are to those people that did this to my mother, which was bounding them to a shower head and creating trauma to the body, whether it was physical, mental, or even sexual.
I've heard a lot
or all the above.
Right.
And they
right.
did that.
And the thing is, when that does happen, who do they tell? They can't. Like I said, they've been brainwashed to believe that nobody's going to believe them.
And when she did reach out to her family that would believe her because she was not a liar, and my grandfather himself knew that, they intercepted the letters, read them, and then conflicted her story by saying she was lying. That's when he showed up. And like we said earlier, that's when he punched them in the face because they would not allow him to see her. But
Right.
she ended up running away on her own in her stockings only.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah,
I love
it
that.
is.
I love that about her.
And the thing is, out there, because like I said, I was there. It's surrounded by farmland. There's a
Yes, sir.
a cemetery across the street, but it's all farmland, so it's miles and miles away from Corpus.
Yes, sir. And when she got across the field, she remembered that one person that she said she would never leave, so she ran back in those stockings, got that girl out of there, and when they finally got, like Benny said earlier, to her street, they broke into every house. As soon as they remembered someone, they broke into another place because they didn't have cell phones. They were able to break in, use their phone, collect calls to other states to tell the families, come get your children.
Yeah. Wow. And
Amazing.
she must have taken off at night, was it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
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 Yes, sir.
So, yeah, that place. I mean, I was not in the homes like the Anchor home or I was at the elementary school that was behind the Rebekah home, actually.
Wow.
So, and I've said it on this podcast before to other people, but you would see the girls come up because there's a stairway in the back of the Rebekah home as well, because the school was a 2-story school. The bottom was the elementary school where I was, and the top was where the Rebekah girls went to school. And as they would come out of the exit from the Rebekah home up the stairs to their school, you could just see their heads hanging low. You could tell they were not
Exactly.
They were not happy.
Yeah. No, sir.
So, and I didn't
They were
find
being told exactly how to be.
right, and I didn't find out, what happened until, I was an adult. So, there's really nothing I could do. Shit, I was only in what, 4th grade, 5th grade, so.
Yeah, but it's even amazing to me that you, as one person, were able to witness and remember for this very moment.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of faces I remember. I've tried to get a hold of some of them, but I can't find them. So I don't know if they changed their name or whatever. But I honestly have to say,
they put a lot of fear in my mother. They put a lot of fear into my mother. Let me say this: they tried to put a lot of fear into my mother by making her feel incapable of spreading the truth. And when they did that, they thought that they were winning. Now, they may have been able to handicap her communications, but what they really did not do was succeed at the truth. And the truth will always win in the end. And as her daughter, I will never let anybody convince me otherwise that place had an impact on her life for the good.
Right. Now, I have to say, there were a few people there that were genuine. She probably didn't mean
Now, I don't disagree with you on that, because she would not have sought that place out if there wasn't somebody
Right.
that welcomed her in.
Well, there were a few old women there. One of them was Miss Yoder. Very gentle lady. Never did harm to anybody. Another one was Miss Copeland.
I agree with those types of people. I'm not saying anything against those people.
Right.
I want to say that she did say that there was a really, a very nice lady that was nice to her. That like it was like one individual that like she did say that was older, that did kind of like wasn't like everybody else.
Right. It may have been Miss
remember.
Yoder. I haven't heard a single bad thing about that woman.
And
But-
that woman may not have even been aware of what was going on.
Correct.
And if that's the situation, I completely understand why they allowed that to happen, because they wanted to entrap these girls. Once they got there, it was a different situation. But to bring them in, just like my mother sought this place out on her own, this place did not approach my mother. My mother approached this place to change her life because she was a runaway. And when she actually wanted to change her life for the better, she sought this out because she found comfort in the advertisement on the radio. And when she got there, I'm sure she approached a beautiful soul such as that lady that you're mentioning. But after the fact that she was welcomed in and put into the system, because this was a systematic process that they did with the state. This is why this was such an enrichment program for the state, because Lester Roloff benefited off of everyone that was attended, as well as any life that was, I want to say, entrapped in the end, but that was accepted into this program. They all benefited from them being there, except for the ones that were there enduring it.
Right. I mean, through donations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yes, they advertised as this beautiful place. It was a home for girls, ones that actually gave themselves over to the glory of whatever being that they wanted it to be for. But in the end, these girls were traumatized, whether they were individually endured the sessions that my mother did, such as being seriously bound to a shower head in the showers, and
Being paddled so she was like black and blue where she couldn't even sit down.
and endured even, my mother was even raped by some of the staff, okay? Not by Lester Roloff, but by the staff.
Doesn't surprise me at all. Not at all, because
Me neither.
I know that I didn't know Wiley Cameron that well, but I had some run-ins with him, and he was like the kind of guy you see in the 70s with the silk shirt and the chains and the necklaces, kind of one of those kinds of guys, a real pervert. You know what I mean? Real thought he was a ladies' man, but he ended up he died a horrible death. But we can get into that later. But yeah, some people there have no idea what's going on in the background. They might be there for the reason, I truly want to help these people, but had no clue what was going on. When I mean, I'm not defending them. I'm just saying some people had no clue.
And I understand that, because that is how they wanted it to be, sir.
Right.
It was a purposefully done situation. I do not... Well planned out, exactly. I do not hold anybody that had no idea accountable. I really don't, because that is what life is about. Not everybody knows the full story. But my mother was not a liar. My mother was actually not wanting to be a victim. She went to this place on her own. They pulled her in with the best of intentions, so to speak, but when it got down to it, life can show up and become ugly, and that's what she endured, but it's also what she escaped.
Right. She went in voluntarily for help, but she became a victim.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And it affected her life for the rest of her life. As her daughter, and even Benny can understand the same thing. My mother had a hard time communicating. She could express herself, but it was not verbally well done in her point. She always felt like she couldn't talk because she had in a way, I kind of get the same thing too, a speech impediment, stuttering, things like that would help hinder her from communicating how she really was trying to feel. A lot of people misunderstood my mother, and I think that's because at that 14-year-old brain, she was told, if you ever tell, something bad's going to happen. So she didn't know how to tell everybody how she really was feeling or dealing with things.
Right.
And now that she's passed away, as her daughter, and Benny as well, we both know that Gwen was a survivor, and we always understood her misunderstandings.
After all this happened, did she see a therapist later on in her life?
No, sir.
No.
She did not trust anybody after this.
Yeah, she didn't really trust people like that.
Understandable.
And that's why her life ended so soon. She never went to the doctor for anything, and that's why we weren't able to protect her from whatever the cause was. She went to sleep on Christmas Eve the night before and did not wake up. But it was a peaceful passing, of course. I'm thankful for that.
Well, you can honestly say that now she's at peace.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We believe that, and we know that to be true. I'm actually thankful for this moment because I've always wanted to advocate for my mother, because a lot of people could not understand her, but they loved her no matter what.
Unconditional love. You know.
Unconditional love is true, and she
Yes.
gave that more than she gave anything else.
Yeah. Did she tell you about anything else besides it being tied up to a shower head? You said she was beaten.
Yeah, she was beaten. She was spanked. She had bruises. That's another reason why they would not allow her father to see her the day that he showed up, because they ended up saying that she was somehow unavailable. I don't even know the story of it really, because I don't want to approach my grandfather with the details. He's in his elder years, and I really don't want to disturb him about it. But my mother told me that he was well aware that she was available, and they would not let him see her. So he punched them, of course, and he
Yeah.
assaulted them because that was his daughter, and he knows that she would not tell such a tall tale, and that's how they tried to portray it. So. I know that she was actually sexually assaulted. And the reason why I know that is because when I started learning about generational trauma being passed down through, generations,
Mm-hmm.
I started realizing that my mother had conceived later in that year that I was actually, I think it was the next year that I was conceived. So her body still had memory of the trauma. And that's when I started learning and asking her detailed questions about it. And when I learned that, it was astonishing to me. Not everybody was raped, but they were definitely bound, and they were definitely put into a submissive situation
Uh-huh.
to where they listened to what they wanted as the school demanded from them. And even if they were able to give them a child, if they even came there with an unwanted pregnancy, the school would take the pregnancy and take the child from them and say that they were doing something wonderful for the child, but I don't know what they did with the
They
actual
were
children.
they were selling them. They were selling
That's
the kids.
horrible. That is pure evil. I'm sorry.
There's a
That is
couple
pure evil,
right.
because that's not how they told those children that they were going to do with their own children. That's disgusting to me.
I know some ladies that have been on the podcast that are still looking for their kids.
I pray that they find them.
Yes, they were
I do.
they took them, and actually I think they went to a place called Bethesda, which was for pregnant women. And once they gave birth, they'd take the kids, and then they would, adopt them out basically for $200 or something like that. So
That is unnecessary trauma in people's lives.
right,
Unnecessary.
right. I mean,
Unnecessary.
knowing your whole life you can't find your kid.
For $1.
Yeah, yeah. It's all about
That's
profit.
sad. I hate that. I really do. My mother, thankfully, was not conceived with me, of course, but I was conceived not too far after that, because she met my father. But she met my father in another city. She met him in Galveston, and she ran away from Corpus. And actually, they moved all the way from Corpus to Houston to get away from all of that situation. And I'm thankful that they did.
Yeah, it's a good thing you were conceived there. You probably have different parents.
I know. I'm proud of my parents. Both of them have passed. I couldn't be even more prouder. I still miss them. I miss them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I want to honor my mother, because my mother really, truly, I want to say this, and excuse my French,
That's
she was
fine.
a badass.
Mhm.
She was a badass. All her life. She did her best to live with the trauma that happened as a child and as an adult, but she still found a reason to hula hoop.
Right. I mean, dealing with trauma, I mean, it hardens you. You know what I mean?
But
hardens
she
you.
did her best to stay loving and lovable, and she hula hooped all her life.
And she's
She was a hula hooper.
and she's a great woman for that. You know what I mean?
Thank you, sir. I agree.
She, to go through all that and still have a loving heart.
And she did. She did not like talking about this, but she did tell the story because it was a story to tell.
And the thing is, there's a lot of women out there, some that I've interviewed on the podcast, who waited 20, 30 years because they just
My
couldn't.
mother spoke out as soon as she could.
Right. Well, some women can't. I mean, they were so
And
traumatized.
that's understandable, because it was completely traumatizing. I do not have any stipulations on how you speak out, but to be able to speak out against such trauma in your life, whether it was this type of trauma or any type of trauma, for you to be able to even speak the words to another soul that will hear you is a reward that will come to you no matter what, because somebody will learn from that.
And
And
now,
that's why I want to speak out today.
and now with the age of the internet, information is everywhere, and people are catching on. I mean, I know that Roll-Off Enterprises in Corpus is basically not there anymore. It's the church is still there, but it's run by a different pastor, and they don't have.
Be it.
Yeah, and they still got other schools all over the place. There's still a lot of roll-off sycophants
As
out
long
there.
as they learn this lesson, how not to act in life behind closed doors, that's
Right.
what matters.
But there's a lot of roll-off sycophants out there who still.
Well, to them, I say, as her daughter, you need to be educated a little bit more besides being blindsided by someone's words. Actions will
Right.
always speak louder than someone's words.
And it seems that in a lot of the interviews that I've done with people that have gone to these schools, especially these Lester Roll-Off affiliated schools, there's always some type of abuse, whether it's sexual, whether it's physical, mental. It's always
Verbally,
there.
anything.
Right.
Yes.
It's always there. Because that was
Which is unnecessary.
right. That was the foundation. You know what I mean? They're emulating.
Well, fire and brimstone doesn't always change someone's life. Fire and brimstone is what you face when you try to take a good soul and manipulate it.
Right. Right. And a lot of them will just close their schools up and go to another state and open it up again. It's difficult.
It's because they understand the government laws, and that's discouraging.
Right. It's so difficult to pinpoint and try and close these places down because they keep when one closes down, 5 pop up, you know?
But when advocates like me and Benny and other victims
And you.
speak up against these places, we become more aware of what these life-changing places are capable of. If they're truly changing lives, then that will show in the lives. We need to be able to know that people are successful or they're just cover-ups.
Right. I've had one person on this podcast who actually had nothing bad to say about Roll-Off, but she was a relative of one of the staff. So,
Well, she was probably protected for this one very reason.
Right. So, but everybody else that's been on have had nothing good to say about this place.
And even the spouses of the staff were contributing to either protecting or enduring the abuse.
Oh yeah, a lot of stuff was happening behind the scenes. I had one lady on who was actually married to one of the staff, and he was an ex, or supposedly an ex heroin addict. Okay, because a lot of these boys, when they came in, they were drug addicts and runaways and things like that. But this one here, behind the scenes, he was sharing needles with one of the other staff members.
Well, you can only endure such if you're partaking in such. Whether it was drugs or just practicing in evil ways.
Right. They were drinking. They were smoking. They were all this stuff behind closed doors when no one was looking. So just because they're nice and proper on the outside, there's skeletons in that closet.
I mean, come on. It was the 60s and 70s. 70s when this happened to my mother. That is the time where everybody wanted you to be proper, but behind the scenes, you weren't.
Right. Exactly. That's how
and
it
that
goes.
is, to me, is a sad cover-up. I pray for our generations now to understand not everybody knows how to cope in life. So we must accept everybody for the way that they were living. No matter if they fucked it up, or excuse my French, I'm
That's fine.
sorry.
That's fine. Go ahead.
No matter if they really did mess up in their lives or they did it the way that we're supposed to by the book. When it guts down to it, we should accept people for the way that they are, not who we think they should be.
Because everybody has a different story.
Right. Everybody has a different story. And some of those people that you said have commented saying you're a liar, that's their opinion. Maybe some
Yes.
of them probably weren't even there. They probably had
And maybe
relatives
they
who were there.
maybe they were exposed to only the good that they wanted them to see. That was a part of the scam.
Right. Right. That was part of the scam.
Or they could
Yeah.
just be some troll just trying to push feelings on somebody.
Right. Right.
Either
I
way
mean,
it goes, I know the truth because my mother was not a liar. My mother was a woman who endured, and she endured with unconditional love and spoke nothing but the truth. That is how I want to honor my mother.
I mean, the culottes alone that they had to wear was a sin. I mean,
Oh, I mean, can you look back at the pictures? Every one of the girls looked so homely. They were not able to express themselves as the beautiful people that they were.
right. No
They
makeup.
wanted them to be conformed.
They couldn't wear-
Yes,
they couldn't wear-
conformed.
right. No makeup. No hairspray. No nothing like that.
All cultish. All cultish.
Yep.
Become who you want to be, not who you are.
Who they want you to be.
Yeah, they want you to be is right. Exactly.
Because I remember I used to go to the services. They had services on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, Friday
Big
night,
services,
Saturday
too.
night. Yes.
A lot of people, yes.
It was packed. It was a packed house.
It was
every
a big
time.
deal. It was a big deal because they had even radio advertisement bringing even more people in. And that's how my mother got word of this place. And to me, that is fishing for good souls. And to me, that is evil because when you have pure intentions in your life and someone does not have it for you, but they lure you in, man, I'm sorry. I don't want to be that person that lured anybody in that did that because my mother, to this day, did not go around telling this story just to anybody that would listen. She knew the people that loved her, and that's who she shared the story with. Because love is really what matters, not what you say. It's what you do.
Right. Right. And like I said, she's a strong woman for that.
Thank
Very
you.
strong woman.
I agree. I agree. Yes, sir.
So, but like I said, but good news is that place does not have any more youth programs.
Yes, sir. And
Right.
if they do have any more programs, I pray that they have learned the lesson of the history that has taught us that you must maintain your integrity.
Right.
Integrity is what really matters in life. And if you do not have the integrity, then you have no foundation to build upon. So if you cannot build upon a good foundation, you will crumble, just like the previous Lester Roloff's ministries did. But when it gets down to it, I am not discriminating anybody that has intentions to build homes for girls and boys that want to succeed in building those broken lives into a life that can be sustainable for those individuals. But when you build your life upon victimization, you're not going to succeed because the truth will always prevail.
Right. And some people might start a home with good intentions at the beginning, but then the money
But
comes,
money.
the power
Money.
comes.
Money.
Right. Right.
The
Power-
love of money is the root of all evil. Money itself is a tool,
Right.
but the love of money is where it becomes evil. And if you think that you're going to prosper from victimization of lives, then you're not going to succeed.
Right.
And I will stand on that as the daughter of Gwen Green because she did not want anybody to believe in a place that lured her in only to traumatize her. But she did want a place that would help her succeed in life. And there are places that will do that. I'm not against boys and girls' homes. What I'm against is the leadership that thinks that they can use this entitlement to whatever evil problems or fornications or whatever fascinations that they may have that give them a sense of empowerment. that right there is unnecessary. You need to take that to your own self and deal with that on your own. You don't endure that with another soul that it wants to be healed from their brokenness. And any boys and girls home that can actually heal the brokenness, I will always support that. Always.
But that's how they get power over you. By
Yes,
fear.
they take your brokenness,
Right.
and they think that they can actually manipulate you. Manipulation and gaslighting and narcissism, all of that right there are red flags that we must, as a society, become aware of. And not to fall victimization of thinking that we have to endure that to get healed. No, we do not. No, we do not. Healing begins when you realize what narcissism and gaslighting and victimization is. And if you are able to recognize those at the brokenness part, then you're going to be one step ahead of the game. But not everybody can understand that. And it is my advocating right now for people to understand not everybody has to be healed from an outsourced place. You could actually do that on your own by becoming aware of the narcissism, the victimization, and the gaslighting that people can do to you to so-called help you. But if you're able to understand what those things are, then you can grow on your own. You don't have to have outside resources to do that.
Right. Some of these places, these roll-off affiliated places, they want to control you. And some people come in that are not broken. They have problems and they break them.
Misunderstandings.
They try to control them either through mental abuse, they rape them, whatever, to control
Break them down.
Break them down. Once you have them broken down,
then you can build them the way you want.
Exactly.
And that is disgusting.
And they become little sycophants, just like these guys that follow Lester Roloff's teachings.
Exactly.
They've been so brainwashed, and no one's told them any different. That's all they know. So, and they continue the abuse cycle. They continue the abuse cycle.
But the buck stops here. The buck stops here. People like us talking about this situation, we want to encourage people that are broken out there to speak up, that either they've been a victim or they're actually seeking help, to not only realize that we can all benefit from a lesson from this, and that is to stand on your own ground of who you are and not who someone wants you to be.
Right.
Also, if it doesn't feel good, then just don't.
If it doesn't feel right, then don't do it. Because my mother did not realize it wasn't right until she got there. And then when she realized that it wasn't right, she broke out. And I pray that everybody that realizes that they're in a situation that's not right, for them to be able to break out, to stand up, and to speak out and expose the truth, no matter what lies they've been told.
And I would say a lot of the Roloff's congregation, like I said, some of them, like you said, your mother was a runaway, right?
Yes, sir.
There were some women who were acting up, with their to their parents.
Or their parents put them there, yes.
But according to Roloff, when he would talk to his congregation, he would say they were hookers, prostitutes, drug addicts. He never said they were runaways.
That was to feed society's money.
Right. Now, so if somebody was to, let's say, talk to a member of the congregation who was at Rebekah and said, well, this is what they're doing to me.
We're trying to make society better.
They've been brainwashed into thinking, okay, well, see, Lester Roloff told me they were going to say that. So really, they're just addicts. They're just, they need Jesus.
Yes.
So there was no way that you were going to get help from any one of them.
Nor were they going to believe the words you said because you were so-called not right.
Right, a degenerate, a sinner.
Yes, and that is so wrong.
Right.
Because people, even if they were prostitutes, drug addicts, or whatever, they still to be able to speak the truth, but nobody had the mindset to listen because they were all believing in the one person's words of this place changes lives. And when they changed lives, they meant exchanging money
Right.
to do so.
And the congregation's minds were open to this. I mean, there was one, actually, I'll digress a little bit. There was one time where Roloff was talking to his congregation, which, by the way, they do have a Roloff.org where his sermons play 24 hours. It's awful.
Still to this day?
Huh?
They still have that available now?
Oh, yeah. You go to Roloff.org, you can hit the play button, and that's all his from the Family Altar program and other ones.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
Yep, still playing.
Wow.
But he told
Do
us.
people still listen to that?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. They still do. Unfortunately.
That's so sad.
There was one story that he told real quick of this one kid, this boy, who killed his parents. Okay? And he tells the congregation, the judge called him up and said, Roloff, sir, this boy doesn't need to go to jail. I think you need to help him. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, this kid just killed his parents. Do you actually think a judge is going to send this kid to a boys' home and not prison? The only thing is, this congregation was so brainwashed, they believe it. Oh yeah, he needs Jesus. That's all he needs. It doesn't matter if he's a murderer, you know. So
That's crazy.
that's the amount of brainwashing I'm talking about, where people just believe
And not
anything.
only did they use the people, they used Jesus' name to do so, which is even more evil in my mind.
Right, and other pastors too.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, Oral Roberts, Jack Hiles, all these other guys that were there back then. He would go to their churches and preach, and the Rebekah girls would sing, and he'd get
And they would get more girls from other churches, correct?
right.
Yes. Yeah, they would.
That's how they grew.
They would like get them for their choir or whatever, or girls that were like, troubled women or troubled young women, and they would, yeah.
And they would make them.
That was a big, big Bible Belt situation, unfortunately, that endured. And thankful that we have been able to put the truth out there for this reason. Because not to say that those girls did not need hope, but for this place to be using that hope and to only squander it, that's on them.
Well, they treated these girls like property, because when the state
They
came
really
in,
did.
I think it was either late 70s. There was one instance where a bunch of pastors from hundreds of churches came over and basically
Advocated for
locked hands around the Rebekah home,
Yes,
because
and they tried to endure it. Yes,
Right.
exactly.
right, yeah. So, and what happened when the state finally came in? They took the girls, put them in buses, and shipped them out of state.
Oh,
They
wow.
hushed them up.
Right, they hit them. Exactly.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And
So
to be honest with you, that is probably more than likely still going on to this day. That is why I'm so thankful for your podcast, because we have got to be able to really, truly understand when somebody reaches out and says what's going on. We can't just look at them as a drug addict or a prostitute and dismiss what they're saying. We've got to endure the truth by investigating and collapsing these programs, only because not every program that's out there is actually capable of doing this or is doing this. But if they are, it is actually my personal prayer, that they are exposed and collapse just the way that this one did. Now, that they may endure to this day, like I said before, I pray that they are actually helping these lives and not hindering them, because the hindrance is sickening. But when it comes down to helping, I will support anybody that is actually there to improve someone's life. But to tell them that they're just a liar because of their past, that is unfair.
right, and keeping the secret hidden by telling people.
Only for the profit of money. It's disgusting.
Well, they also dehumanized them.
And it is dehumanizing. You're right.
That's what they did. They dehumanized those girls to like where they were just like nothing. They were nothing.
The property of that
Just
place.
property,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like the slave trade all over again, you know?
Exactly. Just underneath the name of Jesus, and that is the worst name to go under.
Right. I mean, I've heard stories about some of the girls are put in these rooms, like almost like a closet, with just a bucket.
A shower.
Or
They tied
right.
my mother to a shower.
Right, but
Yeah.
some girls
even what they ate, they like what they would feed them.
The
like,
feeding of them, it was disgusting. My
Right.
mother talked about the way that they treated them on a daily basis. Even if they weren't enduring the abuse, they got it in their necessities in life.
right. And like I said, these small little closets, all they would give them was the bare necessities and a bucket to shit in. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they did. And they had money. They had money to give them the best, but they did not provide that.
Oh,
They
Roloff.
all wanted to pocket it.
Oh yeah, he was making. I think he was
And
like.
that's why the staff was paid, and that's why the families hushed it to keep the money coming in to support the families that endured all of this to the children that are involved.
Only problem is some of the staff, they weren't getting paid enough. They had to take second jobs in town.
Yeah.
That's even worse because, to be honest with you, if you're covering up and you're not protecting your own people, I mean, come on.
Yeah. You're hoarding Luster was making, I believe it was 20 to 25 million a year. And in the 1970s, that was a lot of money.
That's a lot. There's a lot now.
Well, yeah, but I mean back then that's probably the equivalent of probably 50 million, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
he was
so sad.
he was making money, but where it went, who knows?
Wow. I just pray that the buck stops here.
Well, it's also sad that people can't really see the truth of things. You know,
Because
like,
of money.
that and because I can't understand how like you can have all these instances happening and all these people coming out, but yet people still just don't believe it's happening
Because they don't want to.
They don't want it. They'd rather not because I mean I don't know if it's because they feel a part of something or they can't believe that those people did it, but like for things to be like blatant truth in front of your face and just still deny it, it blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Well, a lot of them probably think, well, he's a man of God. How could he possibly?
Yeah.
How could he possibly do
Yeah.
this to those girls? There's no way. I don't believe it.
Yeah, and he had the manipulative way of doing that, and that's the charisma that pulls people in. That is actually where your own discernment needs to be aware of: is this charisma or is this actually just a character?
He would have made a great used car salesman.
Yes, it
Now, not to say that all used carsmen don't mean what they say, but at the same time, I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're duplicitous. They're liars.
They
Two-faced.
just want to get the bottom dollar.
They just want the
best
dollar.
dollar they can get.
Yes.
The best one, and they will say whatever it takes to make you believe that.
The thing is, a lot of people are chasing a dollar, which is not wrong, but I mean, they're not hurting people in the process. Some are. So.
Yeah.
And the thing is,
unfortunately, the
Yeah.
way of the world works is all about chasing the dollar and getting the dollar and being satisfied in that dollar. But the dollar is not what builds us. That's what's sad.
Well, I don't chase the dollar. Because if you chase the dollar, it keeps on running.
right. See the reason. A lot of these homes will run as a church where it's tax deductible and all that. The mistake that Roloff made, what got him all this attention, and the reason why the DHR was trying to get in there, was because he signed it up as a 501c3 nonprofit.
So
See?
he knew the ways of laws.
I think he made a mistake. I don't think he realized, well, you're a 501c3.
And that's what brought him down initially.
Right. If the DNR wants to come in there and look at your books, they have the right to.
Yeah. That's where they started making the collapse, was on that dollar.
Right. So.
Not the truth, but just the dollar part. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder what year was it? The 80s that they brought him down in Texas?
Brought him down. What do you mean?
As far as collapsing that the home itself.
It started in the late 70s when
Good.
they
'Cause
wanted
that's when my mother
they wanted Roloff
started.
to take a license for the schools,
Yes.
but he wouldn't do it. He says he doesn't answer to the state; he answers to God.
Okay.
So that's why the
And he served time too, didn't he?
he served time in jail. I mean, not a lot of time, but did time, maybe a couple of months, because he wouldn't take a license.
Yeah, that was in the very beginning of it all.
But he had no guilt for anything he did.
And he had no guilt. You're
And
right.
the thing
No
is,
remorse.
it's just like, because there's videos on YouTube of Lester Roloff going to jail, and when I see him, I'm thinking this is almost like the Mansons, the Manson family,
Right,
where he's
right.
going to jail. As he's going to jail, of course, you got all the cameras, and you have some of the Rebekah girls and maybe some of the Jubilee girls behind him. They just don't have the swastika on their forehead, but they're like just
wow.
enthralled with him, and of course they're singing and everything
And they
else.
still are.
Right. Yeah. So
They still are. When they called me a liar for speaking the truth about my mother, just under one comment, I thought to myself, I'm sorry. I didn't get fooled like you did. And it's only because I know my mother was not trying to create a story to tell her daughter. She wanted her daughter to understand the story of her. And when I understood it as her daughter, I thought to myself, how amazing that my mother was able to endure such a thing and still love. That's the power of love. She went there thinking that she was going to find it, but she came out with it unconditionally and went back for more of it and protected more of it by exposing it to all the families that needed to know. So love overrules money no matter what.
trauma changes people, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse.
It did both for my mother.
Sometimes both. Yeah, you're right.
It did both. It did both for her. But as her daughter, I love her for the trauma and the love.
But it seemed like the love was more than the.
It was. And for the last 6 months of her life, I was able to let my mother just be my mother. Thankfully, I was able to do that. And I'm so thankful for that time because we did not talk about this experience for the last 6 months of her life. We didn't talk about that. Now, the year before we did, but the last 6 months of her life, I came to take care of her, not because she was sick, but because she was going through a lot. And I wanted to be there for her because everybody around her had passed away, and I was the only one that wanted to be there. And so with me and Benny both being able to take care of her, we were both able to experience her as a mother and not the person that she was, and that was a troubled person. But she was able to endure the last 6 months of her life as the loving person that she always wanted to be. I'm thankful for that.
You should be. Very
Thank
thankful.
You.
Yes.
I am very thankful, especially because she passed on Christmas Day. She was able to arrive for Jesus' so-called birthday for Christmas. She was able to be there in person. So to me, I was sad to see her go, but I was thankful that Jesus was able to take her in a peaceful way because she endured a life of survival. She didn't need to survive anymore when she was in his arms.
That's the other crazy thing is that no matter how much Gwen endured at the home, it never broke her faith.
It never broke her faith.
Ever.
Ever. My mother always loved Jesus, no matter what people did under his name.
A lot of people would say, if this is the way Christians are, I don't want to be any part of it. So yeah, I commend her for that. But to let you know, she's in heaven. And Lester Roloff and Wiley Cameron are burning in hell. Just to let you know, you said your mother died in her sleep, peacefully.
Yes, sir. Peacefully.
Lester Roloff died in a plane crash.
Did not.
Took 4 girls with him. Wiley Cameron was welding something. The spark arced on his ring, and caught him on fire. So he was burned on about 80% of his body. So his last
And
days.
no one know what.
Huh?
My son is becoming a welder as we speak. My son wants to be a welder.
Didn't he refused to take medication and all that stuff for
Right.
2 weeks, right?
Right. No morphine, no nothing. He wanted, but eventually they had to give it to him. I mean, it was inevitable.
Yeah.
But yeah, he died a painful death.
So he suffered.
Oh yeah, he suffered.
So he suffered.
Oh yeah.
Wow. My mother suffered in the beginning. He suffered in the end.
Yep. It always
Yeah.
comes back. Karma is a bitch, let me tell you.
Yes, sir.
For real.
Yes, it is.
And I'm so thankful that my mother, the way that she passed, and the last thing I did was hug her and tell her that I loved her, which was not normal for us, but it did happen that one time. And so the last position that I left her in was the way that I found her in. So she did not struggle. She did not even flap her arms or move her body. She just went. And that to me was so beautiful.
Yeah, because she didn't experience death. She just got to go.
She just got to go. I'm so thankful.
Yes, definitely.
Thank you.
And thank
Peace.
you, Jason. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Jason, for
You're
real.
welcome.
Thank you for exposing this and being willing to broadcast this, because I don't know how to do all of that. I'm still the analog girl in this digital world. But I do know that my mother, as frustrated as she was with the technology, she is thankful for this.
Yes.
Well, I'm honored to be having her story out there on my podcast.
And we
Appreciate
are
it.
honored, as her daughters, we are honored that you're doing so. Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, how are you two doing ever since Gwen passed? Dealing with it pretty well?
It's a little hard, especially when that's your, like, so-called ride or die.
Right.
Your keeper of secrets, you know, your bestest friend. It's been a little rough, but we have each other.
Right. My mother. Yeah, go ahead.
My mother actually passed before the eviction of her home began, and I endured the eviction of her home. But I'm thankful that she was not there to endure that, because she did not deserve anything that happened to her when it comes to that eviction. But I am a gypsy at heart, so I was able to take the change more than she would have been able to. So I took the eviction of her home of 12 years, and Benni, as my stepsister, took me in, and I don't even like saying step, because she actually was the blessing that I needed. And I'm now together with Benni, and we are both grieving with my mother. One of our favorite songs will always be Mr. Blue Sky from Electric Light Orchestra. And that is because my mother loved that song, and that is going to be her song forever. And it's true when you hear the song also by Bill Weathers, "Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone."
Yep.
We still feel that every day.
Yeah, we do.
But when we think about my mother, we think about her hula hooping in that sunshine.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So we're okay together. We are okay.
My mom passed away in 2020, right as COVID hit. I'm up here in Wisconsin, and she was still in Texas. So saying goodbye to her over the phone, I know what you're going through. You know what I mean? Because I still miss
hurts.
her.
I don't care how many years pass.
Yes.
I think this will always be inevitable when you lose your parent, whether it was your mother or your father. There's something about the soul that has a part of you that will never be able to understand what it's like without them. You're always used to them being around or not being around.
Right.
You know, even if it's on Earth, but when they're actually gone from Earth, you still have that part of you that loves and misses that part.
The pain never goes away, but it does get better.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So.
But you know what? My memory of her grows through memories and music.
Yes, my mom's favorite song was "When I See You Smile" from Bad English. So.
Oh, okay.
To
I'll
this-
never listen to that a different way now.
To
I will
this-
always remember Jason. Thank you.
To this day, I can't even listen to it because I just tear
Aw.
up. So it's just one of those things, you
Aw.
know. It just brings back all the memories. You know what I mean? When you hear it.
Yes.
So.
Yes, I do. I do.
And
Well, to every mother out there who has any children, we pray that the music will always live through them, but also that they will make their own music together,
yes,
whether it's near them or far away. You always have some song to sing of joy and love.
yep. Make as many memories as you can.
And even if you have a broken relationship with your parents, just know that they did not get an instruction book on how to be a parent.
That's
And
true.
they're people too. And they're people too. They make mistakes. They're fallible, just
Yes.
like everybody.
Unconditional love is really, truly what it takes to be a family.
Yes, it does.
Yep.
Thank you,
And-
Jason.
You're welcome. And on that note, we're going to go ahead and call it a podcast. Thanks for coming on, Benny and Stacy. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
If you can think of anything
Yes,
else,
pleasure.
just let me know. Maybe we can do this again.
I cannot look forward to either the feedback or the backlash, but no matter what, we know that Gwendolyn Green was a survivor, not a liar.
I told people, even the people that comment, I mean, if you have an opinion, that's fine, but no
Please feed it to us.
no slandering. If you slander, if you comment and you slander, you will be blocked. And
Even if you feel the need to be that way, that is on you, not on the truth.
I've had to do that to a couple of people already. So
Oh, wow.
It doesn't bother me whether they slander or not. I know the truth. I know my mother's heart.
I know, but besmirching somebody's name, that's not cool.
No.
And especially to use the name of Jesus during all of this,
Right.
that right there is what kills me the most.
Yeah.
But in the end, just like it always matters, God and love go hand in hand. You can't go wrong with that.
It's true.
And if you have a problem with that, that is on you as a person.
That's right. All right. Well, ladies, like I said, thank you for coming on. It was a really great hour. Very
It
informative.
sure was. I appreciate it. Thank you again for letting us speak about the truth. And also,
Yes.
like I said before, any boys and girls home that do want to build and help lives, to change the lives,
Uh-huh.
that is recommended, and that will always be a supportive thing that I will support as long as there is no evil behind the doors.
And if there is, get it out. Quick as you can.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you again.
All right. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jason. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Take
All
care.
right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to thank Benny and Stacy once again for sharing their mother's story. If you want to be on the podcast, the number's on the bottom. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. The channel is growing. Thank you. Like I said, we do these podcasts on Mondays and Tuesdays at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time for an hour. Okay? So, for the Hammer Podcast, I'm Jason. You take care of yourself. You take care of each other. And we will see you in the next podcast.